everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. If you hear some rumbling and bumping in the background, it's not a wrestling match going on in my house. I promise you it's not. I live in Florida, and the weather is extremely bipolar. It could be nice outside with the sun shining brighter than ever, and then 30 seconds later, you look out the window and it's a thunderstorm going on. So if you just hear a bunch of bumping in the background occasionally, it's just a thunderstorm going on. I've tried to wait for it to go away, but I can't wait any longer. I just wanted to come on here and talk some ball with you guys. I'm thankful that you guys are tuned in for this episode. I'm extremely blessed for every single one of you that subscribe and like the content. But they always say the thing about blessings is that you can never take them for granted. And the Cleveland Browns, who have been searching for a franchise quarterback since the beginning of time, were blessed for one to fall in their laps out of nowhere in the 5th round of the draft a few months ago. And instead of being thankful for a franchise quarterback falling in their lap, they choose to blackball them. And the blessing that I'm talking about the Browns having is Shedeur Sanders. So Shedeur Sanders was expected to be a first round, no later than a second round pick. And then all of a sudden, he has one of the most surprising draft slides in the history of the NFL. The Browns get blessed with the chance to finally find their long-term answer at quarterback by drafting Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. And instead of embracing him and preparing him to start this year, since he is the best quarterback on the roster with how dominant he's been in OTAs and minicamp, completing over 75% of his passes, having only 1 interception to 9 touchdowns, it's pretty evident that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback that Cleveland has right now. But normally, when you have a quarterback that has looked so good up to this point in the offseason, they normally get reps with the first string. But the Browns want to try to play politics since they overdrafted Dylan Gabriel, and they want to give Shedeur Sanders reps with guys who more than likely are going to be on the practice squad or won't be on the team, hindering the meaningful reps that he should be getting with the ones to better prepare him to have success this year and to help the Browns have a successful season. And the Browns are just extremely ungrateful that they got blessed with Shedeur Sanders, because they rather lose games this year starting Joe Flacco or whoever else over Shedeur versus choosing to start him and allowing Shedeur to lead them to the playoffs. So essentially, what the Browns are doing by refusing to give Shedeur Sanders the first string reps that he deserves is they want to ignore the blessing that he is and further hinder themselves from having a good season. Shedeur, with the roster that the Browns have, if he starts, this would immediately be a playoff team. The Browns are a good quarterback away from making it back to the postseason. They got a great defense. They are healthy on the offensive line again. And they got some really good receivers. Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy are really good. David Njoku is one of the better tight ends in the league. And they got a really good, stable running back. So all they need is good quarterback play. And they could probably be a 10, 11-win squad this year. And starting Shedeur Sanders gives the Browns the best chance to have a great season. But they rather just ignore their blessing, be ungrateful, and have pouty faces because the Browns owner forced Kevin Stefanski and their general manager, Andrew Berry, to draft Shedeur because they were too blind to not want to draft him earlier. And the Browns owner, as crazy as what he may be at times, him making the ultimatum to force their hands to take Shedeur is the best decision that this organization has ever made. You got a quarterback that was the most accurate in college football last year. This was a guy that took a one-win program and flipped it to a 9-win team in only the span of 2 years. You can say that he's too cocky, he's too boastful, but it's the man lying where he says everywhere he goes, he changes the culture. Nobody knew who the hell Jackson State was, where it was even located before Shedeur Sanders arrived on the scene. Then he goes to Boulder, a place that has only had 2 winning seasons in the last 2 decades. And all of a sudden, makes them one of the most notable teams in college football, helps Travis Hunter win the Heisman Trophy, and he was arguably the best quarterback in the nation up there with Cam Ward. Instead of the Browns understanding the talent that they have in Shedeur, they just refuse to accept it and try to prop up guys like Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, who are nowhere as talented as what Shedeur Sanders is, and nowhere had the accomplishments or the accolades that Shedeur had when he was coming out of college. Shedeur was able to turn boo-boo and the gold, making it work with one of the worst offensive lines in the nation for over 2 years, a team that's defense was on and off from week to week, and still was able to guide them to one of the best seasons that they've had in 2 decades. Everywhere Shedeur goes, he's a winner. He also has over 3-4 years of being a starter in college football. And when you look at the guys who have had really good rookie seasons like Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, what they all have in common with Shedeur is that they were a multi-year starter in college. So when you draft somebody that has the amount of experience that Shedeur has coming from the collegiate level, it normally means that they're prepared to start right away for you and have success right out the gate. The Browns are making this quarterback situation more complicated than what it has to be. Shedeur has already proven that he's better than Dillon Gabriel and Kenny Pickett, outperforming them at OTAs and minicamp. And by this point, it's just a waste of Shedeur Sanders' developmental time to have him practicing with guys who won't make the roster when he earned the right to get first-string reps. The guy is only going to get better if he's going up against some of the best competition. You're not getting better if you're going up against competition that's easy to dominate. You can't get better as a quarterback if you're going up against the third and fourth string defense. And what really irritates me about the folks that want to use where Shedeur Sanders was drafted against them, oh, he was a 5th-round pick. It doesn't matter where you're drafted. Where you're drafted doesn't correlate to how good of a player you are. Some of the greatest players in the history of the game went in day 3 of the draft. Antonio Brown, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy. What matters is what you do after you're drafted. And if Shedeur Sanders is dominating third and fourth stringers, he obviously has shown that he needs an increase in difficulty in the competition that he's going up against because he's not getting tested. And if he's not getting tested going up against jabronis, then how is he going to get better? The only way for him to get better is for him to go up against the best of the best. But the Browns, just for some reason, are so blind and so stupid that they rather try to force Dillon Gabriel to look like he's better than Shedeur, even though he isn't. They say numbers don't lie. Women lie, men lie, but numbers don't. And these OTA numbers, these minicamp numbers that Shedeur Sanders has put up, has obviously shown that he's the best quarterback on the team. Start him. Stop ignoring your blessing, Cleveland. This is why the Browns are the Browns, because they stay doing stupid crap that you can't justify. There's no justification for why Shedeur Sanders should be QB3, QB4 right now behind Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Joe Flacco. He's the best quarterback on the team, and if the Browns want to actually be relevant this season, it will be in their best interest to start the blessing that they had gifted to them in Shedeur Sanders this year. There's been a lot of jokes about the Pittsburgh Steelers going into this season. Their retirement home, they're gathering a bunch of infinity stones of players that are washed past their prime, and all they're going to get out of it It's the same thing that they've gotten out of their teams in the last couple of years. They'll win 10, 11 games, and then they'll get their ass kicked in the first round of the playoffs. That couldn't be further from the truth this year. You can make all the jokes you want to about the Steelers being a retirement home this year, but this is a team that nobody should be underestimating this year. You get mad at Mike Tomlin for doing the same thing year after year and getting the same results, but then when he finally makes the decision to change some things around with the roster, such as getting rid of guys that were starting to decline, getting rid of the same core that hasn't won a playoff game in nearly a decade, all of a sudden, he's making a bad decision. When was getting a quarterback that threw 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions a bad pickup? Aaron Rodgers, despite his age, still is a top 15 quarterback in the league. And last year, the reason why the Jets didn't have a lot of success wasn't mainly due to Aaron Rodgers. It was due to the coaching being terrible and the ownership, the front office just going completely off the deep end. At Aaron Rodgers' age, he can only do so much when the situation behind him is a complete sinking ship. Going to Pittsburgh, playing with a head coach that has made it to the playoffs with quarterbacks that would have gotten anybody fired, the floor for the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers is incredibly high, and the ceiling is even higher. If Aaron Rodgers is even 80% of what he was before he joined the Jets, the Steelers could be a potential Super Bowl contender this year. Because now with Aaron Rodgers, not only is he going to help the Steelers have a competent offense and give them the best quarterback play that they've had in 5 years, but he also is going to help out the defense. You know, the Steelers have the most expensive defense in the NFL, and nobody seems to understand why it never looks like an elite defense near the tail end of the season and why they always struggle in the playoffs, when I think the answer is pretty simple. 1 + 1 = 2. If you have bad, inconsistent quarterback play and your offense is going 3 and out every doggone possession and the defense only has 45 seconds to catch their breath, and as soon as they get done hitting the Gatorade, they got to go right back on the field, of course they're going to get worn down and the play is going to regress. Having Aaron Rodgers makes the Steelers defense better because now they're going to have longer breaks on the sideline. They're not going to get as gas fast as what they were when they had Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, Wash Russell Wilson at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that the Steelers have had in half a decade. And as long as he's able to give the Steelers solid quarterback play, this is a team that is perfectly positioned to win a playoff game or two come January. Look, you can say all you want about how good the Baltimore Ravens are, but I promise you one thing. The last team that the Ravens want to see in the playoffs are the Pittsburgh Steelers, because nobody plays the Ravens better than what the Steelers do. Lamar Jackson's kryptonite is the Steelers when he sees them in the regular season. And the only reason why the Ravens stomped on Pittsburgh the way that they did this past year in the wild card round was because there was an obvious gap at the quarterback position. And Mike Tomlin has been at a disadvantage every time he's been in the playoffs the last couple of years because the quarterback play has been atrocious. You can't expect to win playoff games in a conference where you got to go through aliens at this position to get to a Super Bowl with low-hanging fruit like Mason Rudolph and a Russell Wilson that's past his prime. Even Ben Roethlisberger. Remember when he stunk it up against the Cleveland Browns and he had like 3-4 turnovers in the first quarter alone? How much blame can you put on Mike Tomlin for that? How much can you expect the defense to overcome that level of quarterback play? Aaron Rodgers is exactly what the Steelers need right now. He's going to be able to stabilize the quarterback position. And as long as you have stable quarterback play, you give yourself a fair shot to win no matter who you're going up against in the postseason. Then you add Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay to form an elite secondary. Are they what they used to be? No, but they still are really good corners. Both Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey were top 15 cornerbacks last year. Darius Slay is a borderline Hall of Famer. He still has solid cornerback play in him. He was a starter on a team that just won the Super Bowl with a bunch of stud rookie cornerbacks, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, and yet Darius Slay was still starting. In spite of how talented the Eagles were with so many stud young corners, Jalen Ramsey is not washed. He was the 15th best cornerback in the NFL last year, according to Pro Football Focus. The dude had more interceptions last season than what Minka Fitzpatrick has had in his last 2 years. You see, if you actually look at the advanced analytics and you watch the games and you just stop box score watching and you stop trying to judge players based off name, Jalen Ramsey is actually a better player right now than what Minka Fitzpatrick is, despite Minka Fitzpatrick being a few years younger than what Jalen Ramsey is. The Steelers didn't just move on from Minka Fitzpatrick for no reason. The guy has regressed, and it doesn't have anything to do too much with the scheme. This is the same scheme with Terrell Austin being the defensive coordinator that helped Minka Fitzpatrick become a 3-time All-Pro in Pittsburgh. Maybe Minka Fitzpatrick has just started to regress. Meanwhile, Jalen Ramsey is a Hall of Fame corner. And Hall of Fame players regress at a slower rate than what you see from the average player at their position. Jalen Ramsey, although he's in his 30s, he still is able to sustain a high level of play for the next 2-3 years because he's a Hall of Fame talent. Hall of Fame guys play a lot longer than what you expect them to. That's what makes them Hall of Famers. Some of the best players that ever played long after they were out of their prime. That's what makes a great player. LeBron has been dominating the NBA for how many years? The dude probably could keep playing basketball until he's 60 and still average 20 a game. I'm not saying that Jalen Ramsey is LeBron, but what I'm telling you is that age doesn't equal production like how you may think. Stop viewing the NFL like it's Madden. On Madden, when guys hit 30, they end up being trash. In the NFL, though, you can still be a very good player although you're 30. 30 doesn't necessarily mean that you're old and washed. If you watch the tape, Jalen Ramsey is still one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. I'm not saying that he's elite. I'm not saying that he's still top 5 or top 10. I'm saying that Jalen Ramsey, with top 15 level cornerback play, is good enough for the Steelers secondary with Darius Slay, who is on the same level as what Jalen Ramsey is, and with Joey Porter Jr., and with Deshaun Elliott coming off a breakout season, is going to make the Steelers secondary better than what it's been these last couple of years. As good as what Minka Fitzpatrick has been, what has he gotten the Steelers in the playoffs? Nowhere. And that's the thing that irritates me with how the Steelers are being viewed. Yes, this is retirement home, but you have guys that have a ton of experience, which means that you're going to have a team that's going to make less mistakes and a team that won't beat themselves. People criticize the Steelers for continuing to do the same thing every year, but yet when the Steelers finally roll the dice, switch things up with the team that has a core group of guys that haven't done anything in January, all of a sudden they bring in a new nucleus, it gets criticized. They need to rebuild. I can't utter enough how disgusting the thought of rebuilding is for a franchise like the Steelers. None of the best teams in the NFL rebuild. Nobody goes into the season saying, yeah, we got to be ass on purpose so we can get a good quarterback. We need to trade all of our best players so we can position ourselves to get a good quarterback. There is more than one way to land a franchise quarterback other than intentionally throwing away the season to put yourself in position to do so. The Chiefs traded up to get Patrick Mahomes. The Bills traded up to get Josh Allen. The Ravens traded back into the end of the first to land Lamar Jackson. Do you find it funny how 3 out of 4 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, their franchises traded up to go get them? So why can't the Steelers do the same with them having 13, 14 draft picks in next year's draft? Just because the Steelers are a retirement home doesn't mean that this is a team that's going to be an easy lock to be a first-round exit. If anything, this is a team that has the kind of experience and veteran leadership needed to finally end the Steelers' decade-long playoff drought. Yeah, they do have a few intriguing personalities, but you got guys that are passionate about the game of football, that want to win, that are going to put everything on the line to do so. And that's what the Steelers needed, because when the Ravens were kicking the shit out of Pittsburgh and Lamar Jackson was running around doing this thing, making a mockery of Mike Tomlin's defense, it was evident that Pittsburgh gave up. You're not going to have Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, and Aaron Rodgers giving up, because they know everything that's on the line this year, and they still want to prove themselves. They still want to prove that they still have a lot left in the tank, and Aaron Rodgers wants to end his career on a high note. The Steelers' retirement home is going to shock the NFL this year. This, I guarantee you, would not be a one-and-done playoff team. I'm picking the Chicago Bears to win the NFC North this year, and I'm also picking this team to finish with the best record in the NFC this year. The Chicago Bears hiring Ben Johnson changes everything. And what is getting overlooked about the Chicago Bears is how good this team is from a roster standpoint. This was already a near playoff team last year with the talent they had on defense and the weapons that they had around Caleb Williams with DJ Moore, Roma Dunze. But what did this team in, other than the offensive line not being good, was how atrocious Matt Eberflus coaching was. With Ben Johnson being the best offensive mind since Sean McVay to get a head coaching job, the Chicago Bears have instantly made themselves a Super Bowl contender and the prime candidate to go from worst to first in the division. It's so ironic to me how the Bears are just cursed and they'll never be anything because history tells us that the Bears always suck. Meanwhile, everybody is singing the New England Patriots praises, making it seem as if they're a lock to make it to the playoffs because they hired Mike Vrabel. Every season, there's a team that nobody expects to be good with a new head coach that surprises everybody. Last year, we saw the Commanders make it to the NFC Championship with Dan Quinn, and they've been awful since the beginning of my existence. And yet, they found the right head coach, they had the right quarterback, and all of a sudden, the Commanders were one game shy of making it to the Super Bowl. Why can't the Chicago Bears be this year what the Commanders were last season? They have the recipe and all the ingredients in the kitchen. Now they just need Ben Johnson to be the chef to put it all together. You give him a guy in Caleb Williams that was labeled as not just a generational quarterback, but the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, to one of the most innovative offensive minds that the league has seen in a while. How is anybody going to be able to stop the Chicago Bears from being the best team in the NFC this year with everything that Ben Johnson is inheriting? This is a team that is already equipped to compete for a Super Bowl. Ben Johnson, when he first got to Chicago, the first thing that he did was say, hey, we need to get that brother Caleb Williams some big boys up front. We need to get him some presidential security to make sure that we can keep him upright. And what did they do? They get Joe Thuney. They signed Drew Dalman in free agency. This is not the same Bears team that we saw get Caleb Williams obliterated all throughout last season. This is a way better team than what the Bears were in 2024. They're going to be better coached. They're going to be better on the offensive line. And thay going to get MVP level quarterback play out of Caleb Williams this year. When Sean McVay first got to the Rams, Jared Goff looked like one of the worst first overall picks ever. He looked worse than Jamarcus Russell during his rookie season. But Sean McVay comes in, and all of a sudden, he had Jared Goff playing at an MVP level. Ben Johnson can do the same thing with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams didn't have a garbage rookie season. He actually had a pretty good rookie season considering the situation that he was put in. There's a reason why Caleb Williams didn't want to go to the Chicago Bears, and he was right about everything. He didn't believe in Shane Waldron. Shane Waldron got fired. He didn't believe in Matt Eberflus. However you pronounce his name, Matt Eberflus got fired right after Thanksgiving, and it was the best early Christmas present that the Bears could have given Caleb Williams, because the situation that costed him to lose a year of his rookie season and hinder his development was the exact same one that he feared going to. There's a reason why he wanted to play for the Minnesota Vikings and Kevin O'Connell. And look what Kevin O'Connell did last year with Sam Darnold. Ben Johnson is coming in here with a quarterback that has all the talent in the world to easily become the best at his position in a conference that doesn't really have a lot of quarterbacks that rival his physical abilities. If Ben Johnson is able to come into Chicago and get Caleb Williams living up to his potential, he easily will have the best quarterback in the NFC. Unlike the AFC, the NFC doesn't have a bunch of quarterbacks that are aliens. Caleb Williams could become an alien now that he's in the hands of a head coach that actually knows how to morph him into one. The Bears' offense was god-awful at everything last year. They couldn't run the football. They were second to last in passing yards per game. They were dead last in yards per game, and they only put up 18 points per contest. That's a losing recipe. What was Caleb Williams supposed to do when he had to overcome not just a bad offensive line, but overcome horrendous coaching? The Bears now, with Ben Johnson, are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC North. Dan Campbell doesn't want to see Ben Johnson twice in the season because he knows what this brother is capable of. A large reason for the Lions' success these last couple of years, why they've been a Super Bowl contender, is because of the genius of Ben Johnson's offensive play calling. The dude is throwing laterals to his right tackle. Are you kidding me? And it's working. The dude is coming up with fake fumble snaps, all kinds of crazy, wacky play calls. And it's just completely toying with the rest of the league. So if this dude is doing all kinds of whack-a-mole stuff in Detroit, can you imagine what he's about to cook up with a guy in Caleb Williams that not only has a dynamic arm, but also is a really great athlete? We look at how good Jaden Daniels was last season. Think about how good Caleb Williams could be this season. There's a reason why he went number one over Jaden Daniels. And hindsight is 2020. If we were to go back to the draft and we didn't know how Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels were going to pan out in their rookie season, let's stop acting like the majority of us wouldn't have taken Caleb Williams. And I know a small majority of you guys are different from the rest. You're going to say, oh, well, I was higher on Jaden Daniels the whole time. Well, cool, Jose. Hats off to you. But the majority of everybody on the planet would have taken Caleb Williams number one overall over Jaden Daniels. The difference between the two is that one received good coaching and the other received some of the worst coaching in the NFL. Just because you're a talented quarterback doesn't mean you can overcome a crappy situation. The Bears for years have been known as the graveyard for young quarterbacks' careers. They wanted to get rid of Justin Fields, funny enough, because they felt he was holding the team back just to hold back Caleb Williams and suffer the same fate. They thought that Justin Fields was the reason why they couldn't lose close games. Well, you see how they lost to the Washington Commanders, right? With Ben Johnson now being the right coach that the Bears have been searching for these last couple of years, he's going to change everything for this franchise. He's not only going to make the Bears the best team in the NFC North, but he's also going to make this the best team in the NFC and the prime Super Bowl contender this year with Caleb Williams getting elite coaching and elite play calling and a better system that's going to be tailored around his generational talent, he easily is going to be an MVP candidate this year. And we know that the Bears defense is loaded. Let's not act like you forgot about Jalen Johnson, one of the top 5 corners in the game. Let's stop acting like Jaquan Brisker ain't a dog. Let's not act like we forgot about Kyler Gordon, Montez Sweat. They signed Grady Jarrett in free agency. And also, they have Dennis Allen calling their defense. The brother is a terrible head coach, but he is an incredible defensive coordinator. Ben Johnson and the Bears are about to torture the NFL this season. Bryce Young has caused a civil war among Carolina Panthers fans. You got 50% of this fan base that believe that after Bryce Young got benched and he took over as QB1 again, he truly turned the corner with how well he played down the stretch of last season. But then you got the other 50% out there that aren't sold on Bryce Young. They believe that the small flashes that he showed last year was nothing but fool's gold. So entering year 3 for Bryce Young, a pivotal season in his career that's going to give us the answers to the biggest question about the Panthers this offseason, which is, has Bryce Young truly turned the corner? Is this finally the guy that they imagined him being when they took him first overall a few years ago after trading away the farm to land him? Me personally, I believe that Bryce Young has turned the corner. But I believe also that Bryce Young isn't going to be the quarterback that the Panthers thought he would be when they took him first overall. And what I mean by that is Bryce Young, I feel, will be a top 16 or better quarterback this year. But he won't be what you expect a first overall pick to be. And I know Panthers fans hate when I compare Bryce Young to CJ Stroud, but there are just certain throws that CJ Stroud can make due to his physical abilities that Bryce Young simply can't due to his physical limitations. The dude is 5'10", doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. He's not as athletic as what somebody small his size needs to be to avoid pressure. So essentially, Bryce Young at his best is a Dollar General version of Drew Brees. Nick Saban called him a point guard. He gets the ball out fast. He's like a computer at quarterback. It's kind of like when you go up against Bryce Young, it's like going up against the Madden AI. The dude just knows when everybody is open, when to get the ball out at the right time. He's supposed to throw with great anticipation. That's what Bryce Young will be at his best. He essentially will be what Tua and Brock Purdy are. And if you can get that level of quarterback out of Bryce Young, that's a win. However, it still is somewhat a L because you expect for better high-level quarterback play from a guy that you essentially trade away Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore for to get. And Panthers fans this season, if you are one of those people that believe that Bryce Young has turned the corner and you feel like this is the Alabama version of Bryce that you saw in college, you believe this is good enough for you to be a playoff team, and I'll have to say you're a little bit mistaken on that, because even if Bryce Young picks up from where he left off last year this season, he still isn't going to be good enough to overcome the holes that the Panthers have on defense. We still don't know how good this pass rush is going to be. They're banking on a lot of rookies to produce. Do you also have a secondary that outside of J.C. Horn, you can't name a single other cornerback on this Carolina Panthers roster? And you signed Trayvon Moorick in free agency, who's more of a run stopper, and you drafted Latham Ransom, who's no different from a player than what Moorick is. So your secondary still has a lot of holes in it and a lot of questions. Bryce Young, as good as he possibly could be this season, needs to play at a top 5 level to take the Carolina Panthers to the playoffs this year. And the Panthers don't have an easy schedule. So Bryce Young, unless he just all of a sudden becomes an elite quarterback, he's not going to be good enough to elevate the Carolina Panthers to the postseason. what my expectations are for Bryce Young is that he probably throws 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, probably has around 3,400, 3,500 yards, and that's a good enough season to give you enough hope that this is finally the franchise quarterback that you've been searching for since you got rid of Cam Newton. And then you can win Bryce Young if he gives you that level of play. But for the people that are the other 50% that are saying that Bryce Young is fool's gold and last year he just got lucky, he had lightning in a bottle, he's going to come back down to earth now that everybody has film on him, I disagree with that. Because Bryce Young had some really good games last year against some really good teams. He played well against Philadelphia. He played fantastic against the Kansas City Chiefs. Bryce Young played as good as what you could against the Chiefs defense. He put the team in position to win, but the defense failed him. What we saw to Bryce Young is a guy that after he got benched, he was able to sit back, reflect, and as soon as he took over the reins again, the game slowed down for him. Before he got benched, the game was just going a million miles per hour for him. You saw a guy that was just timid in the pocket, that didn't even know where to go with the football, to the point where he would run outside the pocket and not know if he should throw the ball away or just tuck and run, and he would get absolutely obliterated. I mean, the first 2 games of the regular season last year, the Panthers couldn't even get the ball past midway through the field with Bryce Young at quarterback. So Bryce Young went from being the biggest bust since Jamarcus Russell to all of a sudden looking like a serviceable quarterback after he got benched. And I don't believe that you just have that level of play out of nowhere and it just all of a sudden goes away the following season. There was something that clicked for Bryce Young last year, and I think that it was that phone call with Rod Wave, but some of y'all may say otherwise. But Dave Canales also was able to better figure out how to put Bryce Young in a system that was advantageous for his abilities. And if Dave Canales continues to build on that, there's really no way we should see Bryce Young regress. So my expectations for Bryce Young is that he's going to be good enough to be the long-term starter for Carolina. And this season, they probably win 7, 8 games, maybe 10 games if the defense looks really good, and then possibly they could win this division because it's not a really good one with how mid the coaching is and how other teams just have a bunch of issues going on. But Bryce Young isn't going to be this kind of game-changing quarterback like a Lamar, Josh Allen, or even Joe Burrow are. Because when you drafted him first overall, that's what you were expecting. Now you hear Panthers fans somewhat saying, we don't need Bryce Young to be elite. We just need this guy to take care of the football, make a few plays here or there. That's not what you are supposed to have when you draft the guy and give up as much as what the Panthers did to take Bryce Young first overall in 2023. So somewhat Panthers fans are trying to make themselves feel better and kind of retailor their expectations because they know with the limitations Bryce Young has, there is a certain ceiling with him. But if he does reach his ceiling, then you have a really good quarterback, but not one that can elevate the team that has a defense that is a major question mark. Last week, I started a new series on the podcast where I exposed the biggest misconceptions in the NFL, what fans and the media are wrong about. And I want to explain why the NFL is wrong about Kyle Shanahan, because this is somebody that is widely viewed as the most overrated head coach in the NFL, because in the 8 seasons that he's been the head coach of the 49ers, he's had 4 losing seasons. He's choked in the Super Bowl twice. And for somebody that has the level of talent that Kyle Shanahan has had these last couple of years, the narrative is that he has underachieved and he's had a good enough roster to get it done, and he's come up short. And not only do people hold the 49ers shortcomings in the Super Bowl against Kyle Shanahan against them, but of course, nobody's going to forget when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, when they choked that 28-3 lead against Brady and the Patriots, and his play calling down the stretch in that game, refusing to run the football, was a large reason why the Falcons walked away with that L. But Kyle Shanahan is not overrated. And the NFL is wrong about how they view Kyle Shanahan in a sense, because a guy that has been to 4 NFC championships and 2 Super Bowls with 2 different quarterbacks is far from overrated, because only a handful of head coaches in the last 5 years have the accolades that Kyle Shanahan has. The only thing that he doesn't have is a Super Bowl to his resume. But other than that, he's been more accomplished than 90% of the coaches in the league right now. And the thing with Kyle Shanahan is that it's not about him being able to win a Super Bowl, because we know that he's capable. Hell, he's been right there. And if Brock Purdy never got injured in that NFC Championship game a few years ago in 2022, maybe the 49ers would have been to a 3rd Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan, and maybe they could have won that one. You never know. But Kyle Shanahan has been right there. The only knock against Kyle Shanahan is that he can't beat one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So can a lot of the best head coaches in the NFL. Sean McDermott can't beat Patrick Mahomes. He's viewed as an elite head coach. You got guys like John Harbaugh who have been unable to get it done in the postseason against Patrick Mahomes. There's not a such thing as a Super Bowl window in the NFL like how the media tries to make it seem like there is. You never know when a team can break through and win the Super Bowl. And as long as Kyle Shanahan is the head coach of the 49ers, they have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl every single season. Last year, they had a down season because they just suffered a rash of injuries. Brandon Ayuk got injured. You lost Trent Williams for a good amount of time with injuries. CMC missed majority of last year as well. You can only make it to a Super Bowl if you have your best players available. And Kyle Shanahan didn't have that. And even some of the greatest coaches in the NFL, or some of the best to ever coach this sport, have had a few down seasons here and there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're overrated. Just because Kyle Shanahan has come up short in the biggest game in the NFL doesn't mean that he's never going to be able to get it done. Kyle Shanahan right now is in the same situation that Andy Reid was in when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was the elite head coach. He was just unable to get it done in the big game. He constantly came up short in the NFC Championship. And when he did break through and finally made it to the Super Bowl, he lost to the Brady-Belichick dynasty. There's no shame in losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with the way that the 49ers have lost those games, being up by several possessions and just falling short, falling apart in the end. I'll say this. Kyle Shanahan, in big moments, he does tend to get a little bit tense. Against Mahomes and the Chiefs, the last time they saw them in the Super Bowl, when in overtime they decided to play it safe and go for the field goal instead of going for the 4th down conversion to win the game possibly, that was the moment they lost that Super Bowl. Because when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, you can't give him an opportunity to win the game. You have to either blow this dude out, or you can't give him another chance to possess the football, because he's going to beat you every single time. He's the boogeyman for a reason. The only time Patrick Mahomes has lost in the Super Bowl has been when he was just straight up blown out. The Philadelphia Eagles had to get a God squad to beat Patrick Mahomes. That's the only way you can beat him. That's the only way that you can outcoach Andy Reid. This is one of the best franchises in the history of sports at coming up big and clutch moments. And the 49ers don't have the ability to win close games against a team like a Kansas City. So the next time they play Kansas City, what they have to do is just completely dominate them, which they do have the ability to do with how good their team still is. Yeah, they did lose a bunch of good players, but you still got Nick Bosa. You got Robert Saleh taking back over the defense, and 49ers have been praying for him to come back for a while now. So the 49ers, with how easy their schedule is, with them coming back into this year fully healthy, their Super Bowl chances are as good as anybody's. I wouldn't be shocked if we see them right back in the NFC Championship again, because Kyle Shanahan has been there for 4 seasons that he's been coaching the 49ers. So that means 50% of the time that he's been in the Bay, the 49ers have been a game shy of the Super Bowl, if not in the big game. And also, we seem to forget what Kyle Shanahan initially inherited when he first took this job. He didn't walk into a team that was already built to win like how Jim Harbaugh did. Jim Harbaugh had Patrick Willis, Alex Smith, Vernon Davis. Kyle Shanahan had a team that was coming off 2 of the worst head coaching stints of the 2010s, and Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula. So it took him a while to get the ball rolling in San Francisco. That's why I don't really count his first 2 seasons against him. I count what he has done since his 3rd season. And in his 3rd season, that's when it all came together. The man went to an NFC Championship with Jimmy Garoppolo and then made it to another one with Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, one of the greatest draft day steals in NFL history. It's funny how Kyle Shanahan gets called overrated, but Brock Purdy also gets called overrated because he's elevated by Kyle Shanahan's scheme and the talent that the 49ers have, although Kyle Shanahan is responsible for assembling the roster that the 49ers currently have right now, which has contributed to Brock Purdy playing good football. And also his play calling has helped Brock Purdy play as well as what he has. But instead, it's like people have this tug-of-war effect where they got to find a way to downplay how good Brock Purdy is, and they try to find a way to downplay Kyle Shanahan as a head coach. The 49ers firing Kyle Shanahan will be an even worser mistake than what firing Jim Harbaugh was. And I don't care if worser isn't a word. It's going to be a word today. It's the word in JT Sports Dictionary. So if worser isn't a word now, well, if worser wasn't a word before, worser is a word now, I'm stamping it. Put it in the dictionary. It makes no sense why it's not a word anyway. Somebody tell me why worser isn't a word. But anyway, Kyle Shanahan is not overrated. And NFL fans and the media that call Kyle Shanahan overrated couldn't be more wrong. Because this is a guy that in 8 seasons has been to 4 NFC championships. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. It's not that Kyle Shanahan can't win the big game. It's just that he hasn't done it yet. And eventually the day will come when he eventually will bring a Super Bowl back to the Bay. It could be this season. It could be 3 years from now. But he's just too accomplished right now to just completely cut bait with them. But you just have fan bases that have these overly high expectations that seem to get a little bit ungrateful at times. And they forget where this team used to be before Kyle Shanahan arrived on the scene. Because if you fire Kyle Shanahan, it's going to be hard to find a coach that's going to be able to guide this franchise to 1 game shot of the Super Bowl and 50% of the time that he's the head coach. History shows that Kyle Shanahan goes far in the playoffs and he can get to a Super Bowl. Eventually, he will end up winning one. One of my bold predictions for this season is that the New York Jets are going to finish in 2nd place in the AFC East with a better record than the New England Patriots. I feel like the Patriots are a tad bit overhyped because they got Mike Vrabel and they spent a lot of money on improving the roster and free agency. They also had a really good draft. That doesn't mean that they're a guaranteed lock to make it to the playoffs. The Patriots still have a lot of holes on their roster. Their offensive line still isn't that good. They still have some concerns with how good their pass rush is going to be. Meanwhile, the Jets by far have a way better roster than New England, and it's not even close. The Jets have outdrafted the Patriots for over the last 3 years. They're better on the line of scrimmage. They got better pass rushers. They got a better offensive line. They got more playmakers on the offense than what New England has. The Jets' best receiver, Garrett Wilson, is better than anybody that the Patriots have at wide receiver right now. And even Allen Lazard if you would have put him on the Patriots, he could have been their wide receiver one with the question marks that we have about Stephon Diggs coming off his season-ending injury. We don't know how good he's going to look coming off that injury. And when it comes to Justin Fields, he has about the same enough upside, if not more upside, than what Drake May has coming into this season. I'm not saying that Drake May isn't going to be good, but it's a little bit premature to just assume that Drake May is going to make a big leap in his development when the dude still has a lot of things that he has to clean up. He still has turnover issues. He still is extremely raw. And he has Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator. And although Josh McDaniels is a really good play caller, there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to have Drake May playing good football in his second season. With Justin Fields, we've seen what Justin Fields has done when he's played his best football. A few years ago, he was top 10 in MVP voting. This is a guy that has ran for over 1,000 yards in the season at the quarterback position. He just brings more explosiveness to the Jets offense than what Drake May brings to the Patriots. And we've seen guys like Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, and Baker Mayfield resurrect their careers in these last couple of seasons. We could very well see Justin Fields follow down that same path with the Jets having a situation which is probably the best that he's ever been in. He has a really good offensive line that has a bunch of first-round picks on it. You have a really good running back core to complement Justin Fields as well. And you got a coaching staff that believes in Justin Fields. And for the amount of hype that Mike Vrabel is receiving, Aaron Glenn deserves just about the same amount of hype, although he doesn't have a proven track record like what Mike Vrabel has. Let's not just make it seem as if there wasn't a reason why Mike Vrabel got fired. If he is such a great coach, why did Tennessee fire him? He had a losing season, and he wasn't able to get the offense right, which is why he got the boot. Aaron Glenn, on the other hand, we've seen how good Detroit's defense has been in spite of all the injuries that they have. And the Jets still have a defense that has a bunch of talent on it. So Aaron Glenn has walked into a situation that isn't really a rebuild. The Jets are really a team that's equipped to win right now if Justin Fields gives them high-level quarterback play. But even if Drake May plays well for New England, with the questions that they have on the offensive line, the questions that they have as far as their pass catchers, and also when it comes to their ability to get after the quarterback, there's no guarantee the Patriots win 10 games and get in. The Jets have a way better team than what the Patriots have, and a better shot at making it to the playoffs than what they do. The only advantage that you can give New England over the Jets is that Mike Vrabel has more success than what Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is unproven, but Mike Vrabel, we don't know if this guy is going to pan out in Foxborough. I'm not saying that Mike Vrabel isn't going to be a good coach in New England. I'm just saying we don't know if his hiring is immediately going to make the Patriots a playoff team. Because right now, they still are the worst team in the roster or in the AFC East by a talent standpoint. The Dolphins have a better team than them. The Buffalo Bills have a way better team than them. The Jets are on par with the Bills in terms of talent. They have invested 6 first-round picks on the line of scrimmage. They got 3 first-rounders on the offensive line and 3 on the defensive line. If you were to take Mike Vrabel and Drake May and put them on the New York Jets, that would be a better lock to be a playoff team than what the Patriots are right now, because the Jets just have been better at building their team than what New England has. Having a free agency where you just throw a bunch of money at guys doesn't necessarily always work out. The Jets are going to derail the Patriots hype train this season. Just because the Patriots have Mike Vrabel doesn't make them a lock to make it to the playoffs. When the Jets have the more talented team, they got more playmakers. Justin Fields has more upside than what Drake May has. The Jets are a team that is better equipped to make it to the playoffs than what New England is. You guys who believe that the Patriots are a lock are solely buying in to the name of Mike Vrabel, which the name does somewhat hold a lot of weight, but the Patriots are more than just a few good draft picks and a few free agency signings away from being a playoff team. The Jets are being incredibly slept on and incredibly underestimated this year because Aaron Glenn was one of the top head coaching candidates this year for a reason. So with what he inherits, the Jets should have a better season than what the Patriots are going to have.